Hello? I should move this to the other side. There. Hello, hello. I'm gonna. Oh, can I say whatever? Yes, you can say whatever. Related to WiX. I don't know any WiX questions. I if it's related to WiX, I won't report you. I don't work for WiX. Yeah. So, hello, TJ from Wisconsin. Welcome. What is WiX? So that's a great question from Husky Sensation. So WiX is a platform which allows you to essentially build a website using no code. What you can see here, what I have open here, in the editor is what is called the classic WiX editor. And I won't be answering any personal questions, Husky, but anything about WiX, I'd be happy to hear. And this here is another editor that's called Editor X. And essentially, both of these editors allow you to create a website. And you can either start with a template, or you can go ahead and you can add your own elements. So you can add text to the website, you can add images to the website, and you can upload your own images. And when you're all done building your website, you go ahead and hit publish. And if you pay WiX a premium subscription, you can also add your own domain and stuff like that. Can I help with code? Yes. If it's a general code question, if it's a very, very, very specific code question, it might be a little hard without seeing your code. But if you have any questions, please send them in the chat, and I will let you know if I can address them or not. Can you pull in, I have a question here from MacMan TV. Can you pull in external databases from spreadsheets like Google Sheets or StackBy to populate repeaters in WiX? Yes, you can pull in external databases from spreadsheets. And let me just explain how you would do that. So first of all, when you're in a WiX site, in order to use code, you're going to want to go into dev mode. And that would be the same here in Editor X. So here you have dev mode, which I already have turned on here. And then once you turn on dev mode, so you'll see here, so first of all, you have the option here in databases to connect to an external database. So that can be one option for connecting an external source of data to your website. Another option would be to use some backend code. So if you go here and you add a web module, and then you say, let's say, Google Sheets, you can write some code here in the web module that would fetch data from an external API or from your Google Sheets, and then pass that data to the front end and populate your repeater. Velo also has some of its own built-in packages. I have a video about this as well in terms of Google Sheets. So right over here, you'll see there's Velo packages. And if you go into install Velo package, then you can search here for Google Sheets integration. And I have a video all about how to use this integration in order to get data from a Google Sheet and update data in a Google Sheet. And let me just, so you see here, we can do all of these things. So get data from any cell in a Google Sheet. You really just have to know. Thank you, Husky Sensation. That's very nice of you. Um, and you don't have to be worried about the word publish, Husky. It just means to put your website out there for everyone to see. And yeah, so back to the Google Sheets. So you can do all of these things with a Google Sheet. The only thing you're going to need to think of is when exactly you want to get that data. And then, you know, if you want to do it, regularly, then you might have to schedule something that's called a cron job. So that would be right over here in the back end as well. So you can schedule jobs. And this essentially allows you to execute a specific function every set amount of time. And there's different ways to define it using cron expressions and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm answering your question, MacMan TV. If not, please give me a more specific question that I can answer. Cool. Yeah, so in the meantime, until more questions come in or anybody has something to ask, I am going to start building out a tic-tac-toe game on my on this EditorX site, and as the questions come in, I will be answering them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a list. So layout tools, and I'm going to add a sorry, called a repeater here. In the regular editor, they called it lists, and I'm going to add one of these repeaters, and I'm going to use this for my tic-tac-toe game. So I need to have 9 here. Let's see if I can remember how to do that. Set items per row 3, and I need to add items. So I'm going to add till I have 9 items here. Okay, so now I have 9 items. Spread that out a little bit. And I'm going to call this my... So here is where we would give a specific element an ID. How about, Sumit, how about you give everybody a little background about what you need help with in terms of your code? MacMan TV, is it possible to use data from a Google spreadsheet to populate graphs or charts within WiX? So in terms of WiX, there aren't really built-in libraries for graphs and charts. So if you're trying to do graphs and charts, you're going to want to use some kind of third-party service that specializes in that. And then what you could do is, well, you would have a couple options, but one would be to embed. So you can embed code using an iframe into your website, and then you can essentially communicate with that iframe as well using post message and get message. You could also build out a custom element. Yeah, so technically in terms of, so just to answer your question, MacMan, so in terms of getting the data and displaying something on Wix, it's possible, but there is no built-in Wix element that I'm familiar with for oh, you wrote paragraphs. Sorry, I read graphs. So to populate paragraphs, you can. Paragraphs would just be text. But charts, I'm not sure what chart you're trying to populate. You could have a table. So if you have here, Where would that be here inside? I think it's table. Where's table? Not layouter tool. I have to remember where tables are in editor X. But oh, maybe here under quick add. I have to remember where the tables are. But here in the classic editor, one thing that I like about the classic editor that we don't have in editor X is that you can, when you go to add elements, you can search for the element that you want. So you can search for table and then just add that element. So editor X should have the same element. It's just, it's harder to find elements here if you don't remember exactly where they are because there's no search function yet inside of editor X. Thank you again to Husky Sensation for the banana. And I'm just going to go read some of the other questions that were here. So Mauricio, I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhat correctly. A general question, I want to know your opinion in what are the main limitations of WiX to develop software as a service? So that's an excellent question. So WiX has the main limitation of WiX is actually its strength. So in terms of how WiX is built, it's primarily its foundation is as a no-code SaaS platform for building websites for people who don't want to use code in their sites. So that means no HTML, no CSS, no JavaScript, and we have these elements which we use in order to kind of add different parts of the website. And essentially you cannot manipulate what's called the DOM, so you can't really tap into the HTML and CSS of these elements. And so on the surface, you sometimes are limited in terms of design, which is ironic because that's exactly what WiX is. That's the foundation of WiX, is designing the website. But if you compare that to, building your website out of React or something like that, then you might feel somewhat limited. That said, there are workarounds for many of the things. So some things that I was just showing before in terms of, let's say, embed codes, you can embed an iframe, and in an iframe you can have anything. You can make a custom element, and in a custom element you could have anything, but it is a little less comfortable than you would have it if you were building it using a regular JavaScript framework. The only other thing that I would say is a downside, just to answer Mauricio's question, the only other thing that I would think is a downside would be that sometimes it loads a little slowly on mobile. This, I think, is one of the biggest issues that WiX has outstanding at the moment, in my opinion. So that means that, if you have a very heavy website with a lot of pages, you're going to see some performance issues on mobile, maybe even on desktop, but primarily on mobile. That would be the main, those would be the two main issues that I can think of. I don't see you running into a lot of other limitations because you really have, you have backend functions where you can build out APIs, you can integrate with third-party services. You have databases, collections where you can use the WiX CMS as a database, and it comes with its own querying language, which makes things very easy to use. Maybe you'd hit some walls there in terms of how you're able to query your databases. There might be some more robust systems out there, but again, you could just, if at any point when you're building your SaaS product you decide that something isn't working in WiX, you can usually just outsource that specific thing and then connect the rest of your app to it, to answer your question. I'm going to move now to Sumit. I hope I'm saying that right. You're trying to replicate the AI image creation. Okay. The function is to extract keyword using the text completion module. Okay, so are you saying that you're trying to essentially, you're trying to combine completions with the image creation, like the image creation endpoint? Is that what you're trying to say, Sumit? And where exactly are you encountering your issue? I'm going to move on to Hi, can you send price from a text input to cart instead of a product from a database/set? Price and price from text input to cart instead of a product. Ed, can you give a little more detail in terms of what you mean? Are you saying you just want to add a product based on a price from a text input? Yeah, I mean, let me just talk in general about, so this is the Velo API reference. And basically here you can find the instructions for how to interact with the Velo APIs, which is basically how you would access WiX collections and the various WiX apps using JavaScript code. And yeah, here we have a lot of different sections for reference. So basically anything related to WiX stores, you would go ahead and you'd look for either WiX stores or WiX stores backend. And here within WiX stores, so you see we have the option to create a product. So that means technically you can take any kind of information from an input, let's say, on your site, and you can use it to create a product. And then later on, you can go ahead and you can add it to cart. I think that's over here. Cart and add products. So this is what you would use in order to add a product to your cart. Another option for you, I don't know exactly what you're trying to do but what you could do is instead use WiX Pay, which is essentially just a payment module. So basically, you can have someone. Oh, okay, you have more explanation. Let's see. Bulk discount calculation on the text input. We're going to just receive the price from the product. I want to send the current product together with the discount calculation made in the text input to cart. Okay, so there's, I mean, first of all, it's important to know that for every single problem, there's usually more than one solution. So there's no right way or wrong way to do things usually. There could be things that you should and shouldn't do. But let me just talk about several ways that I could approach that. So one thing would be to see if there's a way to update the product price. So if I go to WiX stores, and then it'd probably be in WiX stores backend. Let's see if I have a way to update the product. Okay, there's delete product. Okay, update product fields. Yeah, so one thing you could do is to update the price using this. The thing is that this would update the price in your entire website, but you probably only want to apply this discount specifically for that person that's checking out. So in that case, what you'd probably want to do instead is to create a coupon. And that, let me see where that is. Okay. Right, so what you can do is, oh, so here we have, this is in checkout, this is apply coupon. This is for pricing plans. That's not what I was looking for at all. Here, this is what I'm looking for. So basically, WiX has an API which allows you to create coupons. So you can create a specific coupon based on the amount that was input, and then you could apply that coupon on checkout. I think if I was approaching your problem based on how I understand it at the moment, that is what I would do. Yeah, so let me know if that answers your question or not. Sumit again, I'm getting error 404, sometimes output returns null. From text. So first of all, I'm just going to copy this over. I'm just going to copy over the code that you sent, Sumit, and head over to my editor X site. And I'm going to paste it in here. Whoops. And let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, another issue with editor X is there's a lot going on. Okay, so obviously there's some errors that I'm getting here, but one issue that I see is that you don't need, I don't think you need these quotation marks here. That's how I would send in the prompt if I was sending it. Max tokens 50 might be a bit low. You might want to look into that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't see an issue. I don't see an issue with this line of code. Then again, it's a little hard to it's a little hard without the rest of the context. I'm trying to think of a way. I was trying to think of a way that you can send me all the code. Yeah, so if Sumit, if you want to send the code in a file to this email address, then I will take a look at it. Okay, thank you. However, the price is based on square meter material. This calculation is also made in the text input field, which is totally wrong. Yeah, so one more thing that might help you out is the concept of product variance. So basically you can have one's product and then set different variants based on different options and different criteria. So often you can do this just using the dashboard. But if you need to resort to code for some reason, what you can do is also using the API to create a variant. So if we go back to the WiX stores, it'd probably be in the back end. Then you can, let's see, update variant data. Where's the update variant? That's the problem. There's a lot. There's a lot going on here. Let's see, update. Let's see, update variant data. What does that do? Data is a price weight of an existing variant. Okay, so that's for an existing variant. Yeah, I don't see it right now, but there should be a way to basically update variants, and basically, if this calculation is the same, then that shouldn't be an issue if you update the variants on your site, because that would be the same for anybody who's checking out. So that would also be an approach to this. Welcome, Wix Velo developer and designer. How do we integrate Midjourney and Discord in our website? That is a good question. So let me just start with Discord. So what I'm looking up now is to see if Discord has some kind of API. So this is the Discord API reference. What exactly do you want to do? What exactly do you want to do with Discord? So you want to do you want to send messages to the Midjourney server? Is that what you're trying to do? Yeah, basically anything that you're trying to do in terms of integrating Discord into your website would have to be something that's possible through the Discord API, or if they possibly provide some kind of code that can be embedded in an iframe, then you can also go ahead and use one of these solutions to embed the code into your website. It would really depend on what exactly you're trying to do in terms of integrating Discord. Midjourney is an even more specific question because I don't know if their API is exposed to being used outside of Discord. So it would really be only in the case that Discord allows you to access that server via the Discord API that you'd be able to use Midjourney. If you're not particular about Midjourney, then there are other text to image AI solutions out there. I also have a video of how to implement the DALL-E 2 on your, or at least create a DALL-E 2 clone to implement the images endpoint from OpenAI on your Wix website. So you can go ahead and check that out. I'm just going to check the support email just to see if anybody sent anything over there. Thank you, WixFix. Thank you for joining. I'll tell a small story once you're here. So actually, if you've seen some of my older videos, then the name of the channel was Wix Fixer. But then I found your channel. I was like, maybe this isn't such a good idea. So that inspired the change to the Wix Wiz. But thank you for joining in, and the congratulations. My pleasure, Wix Velo developer and designer. You agree the problem is that the customer upload their graphic, type in the width and height in 2 fields based on the calculating quantity, and then I show the price for all above. Yeah, so in that case, and then you show, yeah, so maybe you would be better off adding a new product for that specific calculation. Thank you very much, Wix Velo developer and designer. Yeah, so to answer your question, again, this kind of thing is something that usually you have to do a little more research and a little more reading of the documentation before you implement, but in general, my approach would probably be to either create a new product or to update the relevant variants or create new variants. Um, Second. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, Sumi. I think I might not have access to that address. Oh wait, 1 second. Oh, I see. I was trying to log into the wrong thing. 1 second. I guess I'm not so good at the live stream multitasking. My name is Eitan. Yes, Eitan. Uh, it maybe end up buying a complete solution from WooCommerce instead. Um, Yeah, I guess that's your prerogative. I'm not saying, I mean, I don't work for Wix. I use the platform extensively for my own stuff, and I develop custom code solutions for people who have Wix websites, but by no means does that mean that Wix is the only solution for people who need um, to build a website, especially in the field of e-commerce. There's a lot of good competition out there for Wix. I wouldn't say that e-commerce is necessarily Wix's the strongest point. I think Wix is good at a lot of things. I think its e-commerce solution is pretty good, but by no means is that the only option out there. And by no means do I say pick Wix above anything else, no matter what. Each problem needs to be assessed, and each website might need a different solution. So um, I will not be trying to convince you otherwise if you choose to go with WooCommerce. Not that I know anything about WooCommerce. Um, One more question. Can you manage cookies? Manage the Wix cookies in the center. Can you help me out? Um, so in terms of cookies, so there are cookies that are set by Wix, that so okay, so cookies is a large question. There are cookies that are set by Wix that you don't have control over. In general, if we go to our dashboard, then there are options to set up cookies here. So if I go over here and I just search for cookies, I have to publish my site first in the editor. Okay, but basically through this page here, you would be able to display some cookie ban on your website. I don't know if that's what you were talking about. One more thing which could be interesting to you would be Wix storage. Can you manage the cookies with a custom code iframe? What exactly are you trying to do in terms of the cookies? Let's put it that way. Um, the problem is that iframe, I don't think I think that you'll run into issues when trying to access the browser and the cookies through an iframe, because an iframe is essentially another website that's embed into your site. So there are some security limitations in terms of what an iframe can do on a website. So yeah, it really depends on what you're trying to do in terms of cookies. That would definitely help me answer your question. But just some things that are related to that might help you out. So one thing is WiX storage. And here you can basically store information in session, memory, or local, which is very similar to how cookies work. So you can, let's say, store a certain piece of data in session, and then even if somebody refreshes the browser, you can still gain access to that information. Memory would be even if they close their window, I think you'd still have access. You can read about it here in the introduction, what the difference is between all three. And essentially, this is very similar to how a cookie works. So if you're trying to set certain cookies by yourself, then this is probably the approach that you're going to go for. If you're trying to get rid of certain cookies, then you might run into a little bit of an issue. One other thing that you might be interested in would be also, I think there's a consent policy API. It's part of WiX window. So you can essentially, this is not directly affecting the cookies, or specific cookies at least, but this in general allows you more access to the consent policy, which controls the cookies. It would be essentially the same thing as what users set here, but this would just give you access to it through code. So that's a little bit about cookies. Again, if you have a more specific use case or question, then I'd be happy to address that. Do I work with other? I do this full time. I freelance building websites and custom code solutions for WiX websites. You can visit my website. Just put it here. For now, that's my website, but actually, I'll probably be building. For those of you who are watching, this is a reveal. I'll probably be building a branded website for the WiX Wiz in the near future, specifically, yeah, for the community that's coming from the YouTube channel. I have a lot of people that reach out for different, they need different things done on their websites, things that they've seen in the videos. And yeah, I also have a small team that I work with on larger projects that also require some design elements or just more hands on deck. Yeah, so this is what I do. I do have experience with general web development, but I've chosen to use my skills specifically developing custom code for WiX because I think it's an important niche, and it's in some ways it's funner because you have a lot of the red tape already cut out for you, so you can really just focus on the fun part of coding in a lot of ways. And yeah, so WiX developer and designer. Thank you. Last question. WiX blog posts, and there are 1,000 blogs on my site. I want to create custom blog posts where I'm trying to put the blog data into the data space and display them on my site running slow. I'm not sure what you mean by, oh, my site running into slow. Like it's slowing down your site? Yeah, so unfortunately, in terms of the blog API, which I don't think that's what you're trying to use, but just in general as a note, so it is kind of limited. So we can't really create posts or stuff like that using the the Wix blog API. So that's might be what has driven you, Wix fellow developer and designer, to build your own custom blog, so you have a little more kind of control over that. And I'm not sure, I can't really advise you on why your site's slowing down, because I would have to see exactly what you tried to do there. Let me try and explain how I might approach building a custom blog, and maybe that can help you with that a little bit. So I would go ahead and I would create a collection. And this would be, let's say, a collection just for my posts. And then within Wix collections, you have the option to add a field, which is a rich content. What's it called now? Rich content, or there's two levels. Oh, there's rich text and rich content. Yeah, and rich content is essentially like a blog post. If I go ahead and save that, obviously I would not name it rich content in my actual collection. But if you go over here, you see that it opens up this kind of editor for creating rich content. I'm not sure if there's an element for editing this specifically, but you'll see that this looks very similar to, excuse me, again, Wix blogs. And yeah, so this is what I would use in terms of how to store the data for individual blog posts. And then you can, in terms of displaying the data to your on your website. So first you'll want to maybe create another collection that would be for categories, and then organize the posts with the categories using like a multi-reference field or something like that. And then in terms of actually displaying the posts, so you would have two options. One would be to use dynamic pages. And that would be like, if I have no code down here and I have like super web dev up here, that's like somewhere in the middle. And another option for doing things similar to dynamic pages is using routers. So if you go over here and you go to your page code, you have the option to add a router. And I can create a router and call it posts. And basically this kind of gives me access to server side. So we have a page on Wix, which is the router page, and you can add several pages into the same router. And this is the function that would govern what happens when somebody navigates to this post's URL. And then essentially you fetch the data from the collection, and then you pass it onto the page based on the URL. And this would give you a lot of control over permissions, and basically what happens SEO, and also what happens before the user actually gets to the page. So I used to use dynamic pages a lot, and now actually I'm implementing routers for a lot of my things. So if it's a page where I think that I'm going to want to let different people, I'm going to have some unique permissions. So beyond just, the permissions that Wix gives, which is like admin, site member, author, site member, and anyone, let's say, those 4 levels of permission. So if I want some kind of more complex permissions based on different things, then I'll use a router page. If it's a page that I know will be able to be accessed by anybody on the internet, then I'll use dynamic pages. That's usually my approach now these days. Yeah, the one thing that I did, one little thing about router pages that was an issue that I ran into was that Wix forms don't work on router pages. You can build custom forms, which is actually what I do most of the time. I very, very rarely actually use the pre-built Wix forms, because it just kind of puts you in this very limited. I mean, it's a great solution for people who are looking for no code. They're looking for easy things to put on your website and get out there. And I totally support that. But if you're building a custom solution, then using Wix forms really puts you kind of in a corner in a lot of things. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent there. I don't know if anything that I said just now helped you with your custom blog. But that would be an interesting idea for a video, actually. Maybe I could put that on the list. How to create a custom blog in Wix. I'm actually working on a project now for a client that's a custom forum, because like the Wix blogs, the Wix forums as well is a little problematic in terms of access, like API access. So there's not much you can do in terms of code with controlling the forum. So yeah, we decided to just build out a new forum completely using Wix code. Yeah. Yeah, so that is, I think I answered all the questions that are here so far. So I'm going to go back to my to my project, my tic-tac-toe project for now. Let me get rid of this line of code that we had here. And yeah, so thank you very much, Wix fellow developer and designer. I'm sure you're also doing a great job. Yeah, and thanks for watching and coming and your questions. I mean, it's always interesting to hear. I apologize if you hear the sirens. It's always interesting to hear what people are working on, what people are struggling with. It definitely helps guide me towards, what tutorials to make, and just how to help people more efficiently. Where am I with my, okay, so this is my tic-tac-toe repeater, and I'm just gonna add some images. So let's add media, and let's see, I want to add, actually, I don't want to add an image. I want to add like an icon or something like that. That would be here, decorative, and let's see, more basic shapes. Let's just see if there's an X shape. Excellent. So I'm gonna add in this one. No, actually, this one looks nicer. I like this one better. And let's also add an O shape. Feel free to ask more questions if anybody has more questions. I'm just playing around for now until more questions come in. So let's see if there's an O. Not really. There we go. Okay, that works. Okay, so we have our X and our O, and I'm going to add each of these. Well, first I'm going to name them. So this will be, zoom in a little bit. Did I receive your email? So, oh no, sorry. I said, so actually this is not an email address that I usually monitor myself. And I don't seem to remember, or I don't seem to have the password to that email at the moment, Sumit, so I apologize for that. I'm trying to think if there's another way that you can send me the code. Yeah, this is a good lesson for future live streams to find a more efficient way to share code. Maybe you could put it like on GitHub as a gist and then send a link or something like that. That's what comes to mind for me at the moment. I apologize for that. Google Forms, does that mean in terms of sharing the code? Is that I'm always trying to find your client's website. Cool. So what's your background, Wix developer and designer? Are you a full stack developer off Wix and you're just moving on to Wix now? Google Forms. I would have to create a form. Yeah, that's a good solution maybe for the next live stream. I think now I'm not going to create a form right now, but basically anything that has a URL and you want to send it to me, Sumit, that would definitely work. Just find some way to stick it online, maybe a Google Doc. Just, yeah, put it up there and then send it right over. This live stream will probably be like another 10 minutes. So Sumit, if you get it in a Google Doc and you send it soon, then I'll take a look. If not, it might have to wait for the next time. Yeah, and if anybody has any more questions, I'd love to hear. Where do I live? Um, so yeah, I'm not really answering personal questions, but in general, I live in New York City. Um, I guess that's also written that's also written on my site, so it's not such a big secret. Um, yeah, but I won't be saying which borough, if that's. But in general, I live in New York. Full stack developer and recently working at Wix. Okay, cool, cool. Well, welcome to Wix and Velo. I actually went in the other direction, so I started on Wix, no code, then slowly picked up some code like to do some Velo, some JavaScript, and then yeah, and then I also did like some full stack, boot camps online and stuff like that, just to give myself a little more background. And it definitely helps. Like if you are developing on Velo, um, then I definitely encourage you to like also get some background in full stack. It really gives a lot of perspective in terms of what the internet is and what what can be done, and how a lot of the Wix stuff works behind the scenes as well. Sweden, that's cool. I've never been, but maybe one day. Um, am I working on Fiverr or Wix Marketplace? So I am on the Wix Marketplace. I am also on Upwork, even though I'm really not taking Upwork clients at the moment because just I'm getting a lot of requests from the marketplace and from fans here on YouTube as well. Um, and Upwork takes it used to be 20%, maybe soon it'll be 10%. So it's really yeah, I haven't been taking Upwork clients for the past maybe month or two. Um, but I did start off on Upwork before I got into the Wix marketplace. And now I'm primarily taking clients from Wix Marketplace or YouTube or just people who find me word of mouth or on my website, stuff like that. Um, you can send, yeah, so if you send me a link, Sumi, to a Google Doc in the next few minutes, I will take a look. Yeah, and if there are any more questions, still working on Wix Marketplace and Fiverr. Yeah, I had taken a look at Fiverr in the beginning, but yeah, it didn't work for me, Fiverr. I don't know. I prefer working on an hourly contract, and also just being a little more proactive in terms of seeking out my clients, at least in the beginning on Upwork. But Fiverr is very much like just project fixed price oriented, so it didn't work for me so much. Um, but luckily Upwork did. Hi, select ABCD. Welcome. Yeah. Yeah. That's the problem with a lot of these marketplaces. They take a lot of money. Um, hide an element on a repeater. Yes, but let's talk about that. That's exactly actually what we're doing now. Um, that's exactly kind of what I'm doing now. So actually, this is I'm building kind of like a tic-tac-toe game here. So let's call this circle, and we'll call this X. I can't think of a better name for it. And then here in each part of our repeater, we're going to have a circle, and we're going to have an X, and these are going to be hidden by default. So I'm going to go ahead here and hide, and hide. And then going to select our repeater and call this, tic-tac-toe. And then I can select the repeater, tic-tac-toe, dot on item ready. Thanks, Sumit. I'll check that out in a second. Wait, Sumit, where did you send it? Can you send the link in the chat? Is that possible, Sumit? I don't have access to email. That's the issue. So here you can select item, and item data. Yeah. Well, actually, you can technically give these any names you want, but these are just the names in documentation, so that's what I usually use. And then let's say, let's call one of these, I guess it could just be, I'm not feeling very original today. It'll just be box. So box dot on click. And then once we click on one of those, so I'm going to say circle dot show. And this here, this W, instead of having W, it should be item. And this box as well, it should be item. Basically, that means that it'll only activate for the specific item that you're clicking on. Hi, welcome, Dinur. So let me just show you what this looks like. So if I go into preview mode, so you can see here now that everything is hidden, but if I click on one of these, oh, okay. So this, this on item ready will only run when we pass data. This is not Python. This is I'm coding JavaScript in Velo, which is part of WiX. So this on item ready only runs when we actually push data to a repeater. So instead, what I could do here is actually do for each item, and that should work. So if I go preview, yeah, okay. So now you see when I click on each one, the circle appears. Obviously, this is not what we want because we want to play tic-tac-toe. Is there a way to learn that? Yeah, so you can watch my channel. I have a lot of videos about that. I would start with the Velo 101 series. There's also a lot of good material on the WiX website about learning Velo, and also a lot of other good YouTube channels out there. Sumit, I don't see the link in the chat, so maybe YouTube prevents links from being sent in the chat. I'm trying to think of another solution that could work here. Yeah, I guess it's not very user-friendly in terms of sharing information between the streamer and the people viewing, except for regular chat text. But yeah, if you could think of a solution, I'd be happy to take a look. Okay, so we got our circles to show here. I don't know if select ABCD, I don't know if it's what you had in mind, but so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say let turn. And then I'm going to say that once we, let's say it should be equal to X. And then on click, let's say turn equals X. Turn, no, not true. Turn equals O. Or I can do, yeah, I'm trying to get fancy here in terms of, I could just put this in an if. I could just put this in an if. Yeah, so if turn equals X, turn equals O. And then, oh no, I could actually, I'm not thinking today. Let's keep it like that. I knew there was a reason I was doing that. And then we can do turn equals x, right? Because if turn equals x, then we're going to turn it into O. If not, then we'll turn it into x. And then we'll say here that if turn, well, actually, I'll put this here on the bottom. If turn equals x, then we'll show x, and else we show circle. There we go. Can I provide a great site? Can you help me provide hiding a section? So hiding a section would be the same as anything else. Let me show you that. First, I just want to check. I just want to test my TikTok game here for a second. So yeah, so there we go. X O X O O. Okay, so we already built out a basic tic-tac-toe game, which is pretty fun. And let me address some chat. Section. Yeah, so hiding a section would be the same. So you just click on a section here, and then you click hidden if you want it to still show the space, or you can click collapse if you want it to disappear completely. So if I click collapse and I hit preview, then the section is completely gone. It's collapsed. And if I select the section, whoops, and I just click hidden, then you can see that it'll just disappear, but it won't completely collapse. So that's in terms of hiding. Yeah, Sumi, you can send it on the contact form of my site. That's a good idea. If you do that now, I'll take a look at it quickly. And Divinur, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Crash course, that's a great idea. I've been thinking about it recently, making a Velo crash course. Recently, I released a more specific course for building a ChatGPT clone on WiX using Velo, because there was a lot of demand for it. But I think my next project as a course will probably be to do some kind of basic Velo crash course. Can I do a video on working with dates? That's a good idea. What is your specific question about dates? Maybe that can help me. Maybe I can even answer a question now. Can you please explain how to move the scroll bar of a container to the end? I'm basically building a chatbot using a repeater. I want to stick the scroll at the last item. That is a great question from Unseen Scenes. So let's talk about that. So basically, WiX has every element has a property called scroll to. So basically, if I add an element, let's say I just add this random icon here. Where'd it go? Don't ask me again. Let's say I add this icon. Okay. And basically I can say, let's name this scroller. And then if I say scroller dot scroll to, then that will scroll to that element on the screen. So let me just demonstrate. So let's make this this section really long. And then to this text here, title, I'll call it scroll text. And this will just say scroll. And then I'm going to add an on-click for this. So I can say scroll text dot on-click and then scroller dot scroll to. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see the code there. So basically we have an on-click event listener for the scroll text, and then we're telling it to scroll to the scroll. Very original here in my naming today. And then I go into preview, and I'm up here. Oh, I hid the section before in my demonstration. So let's see here. Get that section not hidden. So I go into preview mode. And then if I hit this scroll here, boom, we scroll all the way to the bottom. So to answer your question, unseen scenes, basically what you want to do is that whenever somebody sends a new message into your chat, then you're going to want to scroll to some kind of element on the bottom of the screen. I hope that answers your question, but that is actually a very good question because that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Can you for login, sign up, and reset password? That is a good question. I've gotten a lot of demand for it. It's just I did that tutorial a really long time ago, and the code is already all written out. I'm trying to think exactly what the best way to approach it is. Maybe I'm going to create a video that's just kind of like a walkthrough of the reset password. But yeah, just because it's not really a fresh tutorial, I do offer the template with all the code for sale. So if somebody just wants the code and to get it up and running on their website, then they can contact me about that template. In terms of finishing the reset password tutorial, it's on my to-do list. I'm not going to say it's really the top thing on my to-do list. I do know that there are a lot of requests out there, and I hope to get around to it sometime in the near future. I know that that was a very non-committal answer, but I thank you for bringing it up again because it is like I see how important it is to people. So I do want to help out with that. And I'm just going to check because I know that somebody's trying to send me something. So I'm just going to check my email and see if I got, let's see, yes. Okay, so I have the Google Doc here. One second. Yeah, so Sumit, I just requested access to the document that you sent. So um, okay, select A, B, C, D. Or no, actually, social life designs. I want to automate publishing content that is staged from month to month. What kind of content are you talking about? In general, if you're trying to handle something that happens, like automating doing something on a certain schedule, then that is what cron jobs are for. So that's right over here, jobs.config. You're going to want to learn more here. Let's see, maybe I can send. Can I send in the chat? Okay, I can send links in the chat, so that's nice. So this article is about the cron jobs, which can help you out. Getting two numeric data values from a collection, adding them together, and placing the result back in a collection. Yes, I can demonstrate that. So let's go here to Home. And I'm going to create a collection. Let's call it Calc. And here we're going to have a number field. And this will be num1. And this will be a number field as well. It'll be num2. And this will be also a number field, and this will be result. And I'm going to get rid of, I could get rid of this title field, but it's actually not so important. So let's add an item. So let's say num1 is 3, num2 is 2. And you're going to have a way to know which item you want to get back from the collection. So if you want to get a specific item, you're going to have an ID for it or something like that. So depending on how, let's say I call this, I don't know, I'm just going to give it a title of title. And this one will be title 2. And here we'll have 5, 1. And this will be title 1, just for the sake of consistency. And you're going to want to check your permissions just to make sure. So anyone can view content. I'm also going to be changing it to anyone can add content, anyone can delete content, anyone can update content, just so I can completely control this collection from the front end. Obviously, on a live site, you're probably not going to want to give all those permissions to everyone, and you're going to want to handle some of the stuff from the back end. So here I am going to import WiX data. And let's just add the code here on the bottom. So zoom in a bit. Get rid of this. No, let's get rid of this. Get rid of this. There we go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, let's create a function. We'll call this add numbers. And this is going to be an asynchronous function because we're going to be querying data from a data set. And let's say const what did I call it? Calc query result. And this will be await WiX data dot query. And then we're going to put the name of the collection, which I called calc. And then I'm going to say equals. And here we're going to have title. And let's say here I'm going to pass in the title. So this is what I'm using to identify which item I'm selecting and want to do the calculation for. And add find here at the end. And then if calc query result dot items dot length is 0, then I'm going to say const to calc equals calc query result dot items 0, because I'm assuming that I'm only going to get one back. In a case where you get multiple ones back, you're just going to have to do the same thing but run a for each or something like that. And then what we can do here is say const result equals to calc num1 plus calc dot num2. And these should already be numbers. If for some reason you think that you might run into issues and these will not come back as numbers, but then you can always wrap it like this in number to make sure that something is a number. But anyways, if we're adding them together like this, even if they're strings, they'll probably be, oh no, only if they were both. I think we're okay. The data should come back from the query as a number, because that's what we set in the field in our collection. And then what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to update the item. So I'm going to say calc dot result equals result. And then we're going to call WiX data dot update. And we're going to pass in calc and calc. And yeah, here we'll add an await. And I can store whatever comes back here inside of a variable. So const calc equals await for our update, and then I can do console.log. Yeah, so that's basically what I would do. And then here, let's call add numbers, and I'll pass in title 1. And then go into preview mode. And that should run as soon as the page runs. Okay, there should be a console there. Let's see. Title 1. Oh, here, I didn't put title. And let's try that again. And here we have num1, num2, and result is 5. And if we go back to our collection, then we'll be able to see that result is 5 here. Okay, that's how I would, basic approach to something like that. Again, no right answers, no wrong answers, only better and worse possibly. Yeah, so select A, B, C, D. I hope that helped. And unseen scenes. Let's see. Great, but what if this element is in some container that has the scroll bar, and we want to move that container scroll bar to the end instead of moving down the page, the main page scroll bar. So that would be the same, just you'd put everything in a container. So let me scroll out a bit. Let's say I add a container. So empty boxes. And then inside here, I'll put a repeater. And then this, we're going to set to overflow hide. And then this repeater, let's just add, no, this we need to make a fixed height. So let's say 300. And overflow, sorry, scroll. And then we just need to put our, so I'm going to split this container into 2, and then I'm going to take our scroll shape and put it there. No, not in the repeater. Outside the repeater. And this will be on the bottom, and the repeater will be only on the top. Okay, so our scroll shape here is on the bottom. I can move it to the center, just a little more visible. And then here, this should actually be enough for our demonstration. So if I go here into preview, and I click here on this scroll, oh, that did not work as I expected, actually. Let me see. It still should work. Let me try. So this might be a bug. This might be a bug with Editor X. To be honest, this actually reminds me of a problem that I was having when I was developing a. I developed a chat widget that actually I can show you guys. So let's see. So if I go here to apps, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Private apps. Then I built this chat GPT widget that you can just kind of add to your site like this. I don't have my API key now stored in this site, so it's not going to work in terms of connecting to the AI. But what you'll see here is basically like it has this chat layout that's already prepared, and then you just have to hook up some things in the settings, and then you can already have like a working AI chatbot. And when I was building this out, actually, what's the question? Unseen scenes. So I had the same issue that you had in terms of scrolling down within this container. I had assumed that it was an issue with blocks, but it could be, now that I'm actually trying it now with you, that it's a problem with scroll to within containers. That might be an issue with editor X. It's something that, because it could be that it references this element in terms of where it is relative to the entire window and not in terms of where it is in this container. Then again, it could be that I'm missing something and I just need to play with it a little more, but you could be on to something in terms of having an issue here. Yeah, good point. Anybody from the Editor X team is watching, this would be a great thing to fix, because it would be nice. Yeah. And if anybody knows the solution, then you can also write in the chat. I think that it's a problem with Editor X. It's a problem of how they defined the scroll to method, and what it considers like the parent. If it considers the window the parent, or it considers this container the parent. Um, so yeah, sorry, that's a bummer. Sometimes you run into these kind of things, Wix, and there could be a workaround that I would have to think about. But in terms of yeah, in terms of a solution for this, how to scroll all the way to the bottom. It's a good question. It's a good question. I would have to think about it a little more. Beyond sound music. Uh, Great. If I understand correctly, you built 4 bots by yourself on Editor X. That's pretty awesome. And let me see if I can see the link that was sent to me. We're a little past schedule, but let's just see if I could thing out for Sumi. Okay, so copying over some code that someone sent me. Zoom in a little bit. So let's copy this over. Oh, okay. So this is the front end part, and this is the back end part. So I'm just going to try and look over this code and see if I can see any issues. Uh, Getting this site to get a description, and then just track my keyword return link. Okay. Am I missing something here? Boolean search string. So why, okay, so one thing that I'm not sure about is why is this in, like this, because you want it, why do you want it here in parentheses? That's one question that I have. Um, Not that that would necessarily be an error, but .text.trim. So Sumit, let's see, generate one. Yeah, so let's see. Let me install. Let me install OpenAI. And I'm going to set up an API key. Oh, okay. That was not the one I wanted to install. What happened? Uh, yeah, there we go. And here, let's go back to our backend. We'll rename this OpenAI. And I'm going to store API key. Obviously, you can't see what I'm doing now in the dashboard, but I'm storing an Open API, like an OpenAI key here in the dashboard. I just need to get it from one of my sites that actually has the has an API key. Let's see, 1 second. Okay, so that is stored. And then in terms of our front end, what we need is, let's take this. Whoops. And get rid of this. And let's get rid of everything that we have here. I'm going to add an input. So let's do input. And I'm going to add a button. And I'm going to add text for the output. And let's rename this stuff. So here I'm going to add the code. And we already have an onReady function, so we don't need that. But we do need to import this on the top level. And let's see, zoom in a bit. So let's rename the elements. So this is our, I'm just going to use the same exact name that you used here, generate one. And here we have input box. And here we have output. Sorry, here this. Okay, so now I have theoretically the same setup that you have. You just zoom in here a little bit. I can barely see what's going on. And okay, so first let's check out the backend, make sure that our backend is working. And for those who are joining now, basically I'm using some code that one of our viewers, Sumit, and he's trying to implement OpenAI, but he ran into some troubles. So let's see what's going on here. So I'm going to go and run this, and I'm going to say, is this working? And I'm going to hit run. And it failed status code 400. So Sumit, is this the problem that you had? I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat now and answer some questions. So OpenAI NPM package, it should just be OpenAI, one word, and it should be supported. I just did it here in the video a few seconds ago. Using your guide. Okay, awesome. Okay, great. So I answered most of the questions then. Sumit, let me know if this is the error that you were getting or not. This is some kind of unrelated error. Request failed with status code 400. So let's take a look here. So 400 is a problem with access usually. So what we can do here, this is one of the reasons why I prefer using fetch and not using the packages, because the packages kind of put you in this closed box where, yeah, you don't really know. So let's do this. First, I'm going to put it in a try catch. So I'm going to put this here, try catch, and then get this in here. And then here we're going to say read console.log error. And let's see if that gives us any more insight what the problem is. Okay, so same error, nothing more really explained over there. So let's go over here and see completion. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off the screen for a second. I just want to make sure that the API key is correct. Okay, so the API key is there. So that's not the issue. Bringing this back on screen. Okay, 400. So let's go ahead and just make sure that everything here is correct from the README of the OpenAI package. So I'm going to go over here and open this up. No, sorry, that's the Google Sheets one. Oh, why don't I see the OpenAI package? Oh, here it is. Sorry. I was looking at Velo packages. It's not a Velo package. It's a NPM package. Okay. Let's see. New configuration. That looks okay. Okay, so in terms of the setup, it looks correct. What I'm going to try and do now is to get rid of some of these. So I'm just going to send the simple thing that I could send over to make sure that it's not a problem with one of these things here. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, cannot read property 0 of undefined. So let's go. Okay, so that I think that means that we did get back a completion. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna say console.log completion. And trying that. And let's see what we got back here. Okay, so we got status okay. And we got headers, we got data. And so we need to tap into the data here. So that means this needs to be data dot choices. And then if I go ahead and run it again, then we got working. Okay, this is what it came back with right over here. So Sumit, to answer your question, the problem was with something that you set over here. I'm not sure which one of these is not working, so let's take a look at the OpenAI documentation. Hi, Matt. Thank you. Um, Matt, I have some updates for you if you're watching. I haven't sent you an email yet, but there are some updates. I hope you had a good trip. Um, yeah, so let's see. Let's see. Okay, what was I doing now? Checking out the OpenAI documentation. And let's go over here. So developers, documentation. And thank you very much. Select ABCD. Thank you for the contribution. And let's see. So chat completion, that's what we're using now. No, sorry. Text completion. And sorry, what am I looking for here? Not guides. Yeah, they change things here like every other day. So it's a little hard to find things. Oh, here, API reference. Completions. Okay. So, okay, here. So max tokens should be spelt like this. That was probably your problem. Let's go over here and get this back in. Max tokens. And let's try it again. Okay, so it didn't come back with anything, but it worked. So we got status 200, so that's good. Yeah, I don't know if you want, I don't know why you define these things, Sumit, like this. Yeah, but something here might be kind of, and I have to remember what each of these things is. If I get rid of this stop, maybe. I don't think you want to set this as stop because whenever usually the endpoints will return a text that starts with this. So what could be happening is that you're essentially stopping as soon as it starts. And that's not something that you want because you actually want to get something back. So if we get rid of that line and we run, then it's working. Okay, so you don't want stop n because that's gonna basically whenever it returns something from the endpoints, it yeah, it always starts, or at least the completions endpoint starts like this. So you're telling it to stop as soon as it starts. So that's not going to work. Yeah. So that was your error, Sumit. So let me just kind of run through it again. So one problem was the max tokens was not, you weren't using the right key here, and also you're going to stop at basically the beginning, which is not a good place to stop. Yeah, so I definitely recommend in general reading documentation. So, if you're using this NPM package, read the README. If you're using an endpoint from an API, read the documentation. If you're copying code from somewhere, copy it from the documentation at least. But yeah, I mean, we all make typos and stuff like that when we're writing code, and this could happen to anyone. So I hope that helps you out and solves your problem. And we built our tic-tac-toe game, so I'm good to go for today. I appreciate everybody who stayed on. We went 40 minutes over the time that I was planning, but it's Saturday, so I'm allowed to have fun and just kind of stay on. Yeah, and maybe I'll try doing another one of these every once in a while, just to connect and answer some questions and help people out with projects. If you have video requests, feel free to leave them in the comments of any video. I do take note. I know that the videos don't always come out instantaneously, but I do take requests into consideration when I'm planning out my future videos. So definitely let me know what you're looking forward to, what you're struggling with. Yeah, and thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and have a great weekend.